Dead Rising 1 is the newest in a long list of games that are given remasters that are more like pseudo-remakes. Especially since this named Deluxe Remaster, the fuck does that mean? It seems to be in a whole new engine with updated models as well as a new VA, replacing the original voice for Frank West, Terrence J. Rotolo. It's Crisis Core all over again. I'll miss you, bud. Mind you, this is just a 40-second teaser we're talking about here, but I can imagine that since it's a remaster, it'll still follow the original pretty close in terms of its narrative and mechanics, as opposed to the reimaginings that Capcom's doing with Resident Evil, still to this day. Good God. But then that makes me wonder why we're getting a deluxe remaster in the first place. My fucking voice crack. Considering that Dead Rising 1 was already remastered on all platforms in 2016, and all the new platforms are backwards compatible. Plus, the PC port's even pretty good. There's no glaring issues with the game. I'd even argue that the somewhat dated models aren't even that garish to look at due to their stylized designs. So basically, what the fuck is this port for? I understand a game like Lollipop Chainsaw getting a remake-ster, as I call it, since that was just never released on PC to begin with, and has since been delisted from both the 360 and PlayStation 3 storefronts. And that secondhand price ain't dropping anytime soon. Bergami was originally going to fully remake the game, but instead decided to just remaster it with some updates after fan outcry, which is an improvement, mainly since none of the original creatives like James Gunn, Suda51, or even the voice actors were involved as far as I know. And I gotta say, if Linda Cardellini wasn't involved in Repop, I think I'd actually become a menace. Going off of the recent teaser trailer, most of the updates seem like simple upgrades to the gameplay, specifically the camera as well as some balancing issues, as well as a clear bump in fidelity while still maintaining the original designs, which I appreciate. However, while it hasn't been outwardly said from what I've been able to find, it seems like the licensed soundtrack was possibly removed altogether. Again, it isn't confirmed at this point since the first trailer we've gotten after 2 years of development was just released 12 days ago. And even though it releases in September or fucking October if you're going to do the fucking limited run release, don't buy that. We still have no clue. But if this is true, it'd be a major blow to the game, since the soundtrack was one of the main draws for Lollipop Chainsaw. Also, what the fuck is this cover art, man? Holy shit. After seeing these remasters, as well as others like Shadows of the Damned and fucking Until Dawn, it kinda got me ruminating on my bi-yearly obsession with video game preservation. Both the Dead Rising and Lollipop Chainsaw remasters are just a fraction of a giant pond full of game re-releases that differ from their originals in many ways, both big and small. To some, a different voice actor or soundtrack isn't a major alteration that will upset them. But to them I say, you haven't been in the trenches of hardcore fandom enough. I will say that I'm an advocate for games being re-released on modern hardware. In the 2010s, it was very common for people online to just implore that you find old consoles and play the games that way. But as time has gone on, that's become more and more unsustainable than it already was. First, there's the ridiculous pricing. Good God, have you looked at consoles on the secondhand market? Many old systems require random repairs or modern adapters, which costs more money. Having the physical space for them as well as paying the electric bill for it is another issue. Disc rot is becoming a more prevalent problem as well. Hell, I've seen that on some of my very own DVDs. Yeah man, as much as I love talking about old games, relying on hardware isn't a simple solution. Which leaves the other option, remasters, and they come in all sorts of varying quality. I don't think I need to bring up the Silent Hill HD or GTA Definitive Edition collections, but I did. You're welcome. Silent Hill HD is still available, by the way. You can play Silent Hill 2 and 3 on the Series X if you so choose. However, it would come with a litany of issues that more hardcore fans would be more aware of than I am. I can tell you that Combat Evolved Anniversary is a pretty bad remaster based off of a pretty lackluster PC port that wasn't even fixed on modern systems until 19 years later. Outside of technical problems and hiccups, the main issue with many modern remasters and remakes is the lack of a pure definitive release of any one game. In most people's opinion, a remaster, much like a reprint of a book or a 4K remaster of a movie, should be the best version of that thing on the market. but that's never really the case, unless your name is Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition. Final Fantasy X had to be remade from the ground up with a wholly new art style for the character models, and something that nobody mentions is that it crops the 4:3 FMVs to fit into a 16:9 aspect ratio, instead of just, leaving the black bars on the side. Sure, it opens up the game, but it sort of changes the overall feel as well. Or maybe I'm just old. No More Heroes was a Wii exclusive title, and as a result, wasn't the most graphically impressive game, so when it was remade from the ground up for both PS3 and 360 with the subtitle Heroes Paradise, or Red Zone, depending on what region it was released in, it got a pretty major upgrade in the graphical department. Granted, it ran like shit. This is the 360 and PS3 we're talking about here, so it had frame rate issues and hella screen tearing, but when the first game was being remastered for both Switch and PC, I thought that this release would be represented in some fashion, maybe with a graphics toggle like in the Master Chief Collection, but no. It's just the Wii game with new traditional controls, which isn't bad, but it's just the same thing that we've seen before. Leaving this Heroes Paradise Red Zone shit as a random release that, come July 2024, will be lost to time forever. And don't even get me fucking started on Persona 3. Between the original, the Fez re-release, Portable, and its HD remaster, as well as the addition of Reload, a definitive edition of that game is never going to see the light of day. Unfortunately, we Persona fans will forever be locked into the purgatory that is, what's the definitive way to play Persona 3? But the thing is, remasters aren't this special, sacred item that most fans treat them as. They are just as much of a product as the other shit that these publishers release every other year. They aren't some miraculous cure-all that will preserve gaming. Let me tell you, as a kid who hyper-focused on Spider-Man and just Marvel in general, the early 2010s were like hell. We were hit left and right by constant delisted games coming back, only to be dragged back to the depths once again. Now the thing that's really gonna save gaming is piracy, but you guys aren't ready for that conversation just yet. Once you remove the expectation of these re-releases being perfect, you begin to realize that many of these bad remasters are still popular. Like I said, Silent Hill 2 and 3 are backwards compatible on Xbox, but games like Downpour and Homecoming aren't. Not that sales are the only metric to measure success by, but it's hard to paint collections like Return to Arkham as terrible, when nobody who's actually playing them is complaining about, frankly, minute details outside of the hardcore fan base. I can bitch and moan and cry about the Life is Strange remaster being dog shit. With all of its technical issues it added into games that were already available on modern systems, and believe me, I will, but at the end of the day, I still experienced Dontnod's beautiful story and came out the other end smiling. Granted, that's me, and I've shown that I have a somewhat high tolerance for fuckery over all these years, but the point still stands that the general public and even many fans play these imperfect or altered versions of these games and still come out fine. I've played the DMC HD collection and did not spontaneously combust despite what the subreddit sweared up and down would happen. There is no perfect version of a game. Not even one that's a cult classic, unless your name is Resident Evil 4 for the Wii. Until Criterion Collection themselves gets involved, which has a myriad of issues in itself, it is literally impossible. And, in a way, once I get out of my overthinking bubble, experiencing different releases with all their own little idiosyncrasies is kind of charming. Almost like purposefully watching a movie on VHS, or still buying CDs in the modern day. I don't know who's doing those things. Those little imperfections and differences are one of the things I like to talk about on this channel. It tickles my fancy, but it also allows for new discoveries in the fandom, even for those who think that they've seen it all. Some may look at a game like Chop Till You Drop as a waste of resources. I see it as a new chance to make videos about my special interests. We are not the same. Honestly, man, as long as the new Dead Rising and Lollipop Chainsaw don't fuck up the overall experience, I'm fine with them. And if they do, I still have my PC and 360 copies respectively. But Yagami Games. If I find out you removed Linda Cardellini's voice acting from the remaster, count your fucking days.
Hours trapped in a mall swarming with zombies. Anything is a weapon.